go ahead and call this meeting to order with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chad, can you please do a roll call?
Supervisor Craig.
Here.
Supervisor Thorne.
Here.
Chairman Schaller.
Here.
Supervisor Bromer. Here. And Supervisor Wolford.
Here. First item on the agenda will be citizens' concerns. Anyone here wishes to address the town board? Can I get a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Bob and second by Mitch. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Who wants to start? Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Terry, I'd just like to ask you about these ethics complaints. How do you think that you should answer to the voters in this community after all this trouble?
I don't know. I guess it's been in the paper. It's been on TV. I guess everybody knows about it.
So do you think that behavior is okay as a chairman?
Yes, sir.
You do?
So I guess if you got anything else, you should probably talk to our town attorney about it.
I'm just asking you about your behavior. I mean, something like that's pretty serious stuff. Do you think you should continue on as chairman?
Yes, sir.
You do? That's interesting stuff.
Anything else for us, Bruce?
No, you sound right now.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Tommy 1503 Caroline Street. On behalf of my aunt and her son, they want to know if the police department is now enforcing the street parking for rotating vehicles.
We are.
And she said that her entire block since November 1st has not been enforced because she said that there would be tickets, probably at least 12, if not more, should have been given. And the vehicles on both sides of the road hasn't been rotating. And she said that she would like that done. Her son rotates and nobody else does.
Got it.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is that it, Jeff?
That's
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Actually, to that point, Bob Wolford, 904 Susan Place, I would actually be in favor of, because I know it's hard to enforce, we got narrow streets, and just, we could do away with the alternate side parking here on the island. Probably do a 24-hour move after the snow or some requirement there, but to make people go through that constantly all the way through the winter is just, I see them juggling that kind of unnecessarily. But go back to the old days where you don't move your car, you get plowed in, and then you got 24 hours, you got to move it anyway. So that'd be my take on it.
Anybody else?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Kelsey Craig, 2900 First Avenue East. We had the frog pond cleaned up on the 28th of October. It was needed. We found 15 tires, 2 TVs, and a dumpster full. We had 10 people come out and help, and we did quite a bit of work in a little bit of time. So it was much needed and worth it. So.
Thank you. Chad and I met with the airport manager and kind of discussions on, moving forward anyway. He agreed we could keep it for another year. But Chad was saying that he really disagrees with this. They always fall behind the FAA rules.
Oh, the landing?
And I asked him, I said, could the city still take it over and keep it maintained as a ball field?
Oh, up there with that.
Yeah. That's where we're at with that program right now. But it's still going to be a ball field next year yet.
Okay. So it'll be a park still going forward. That's good news.
Yeah. Anybody else? Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that alternate side parking. These guys got to plow these streets, and if this stuff gets froze down, and then finally somebody moves, and they go to try to plow this stuff with a truck, I mean, I've seen it where it'll turn a truck in a circle when you run into these ice dams where these cars been plowed, so I think it's a good thing to get them out of the way on alternate side parking.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Actually,
Go ahead.
it's not a volley for that.
Yeah.
I actually was going to go back to previous stuff. So I just, having spent time on different boards and gone through, I just want to make sure I thank everybody, all the people that run and that they're on, because it can be rather thankless at the time while you're on here. The other thing is debate and disagreement is a good thing on the board. So I'm glad we have that conversation and the debate. Moving forward is the key on all of it. So the one area, and I just thinking about this as a resident, I know the fire truck is on a potential trajectory for referendum. And having thought about it, having served on the fire department and watching the tragedy that unfolds while that occurs, the comments that were, or the questions that were asked of a 30-year-old truck, why don't we just keep it running, which they obviously have been doing. But if you're on the other end of that fire hose, or the person who's watching your stuff disappear, and know that we've got a mostly functional truck that might be up to standards, I think from a board perspective is negligent and irresponsible. And we budgeted, we have the budget mechanisms to put that in place. We actually have the coffers and funding that was set up for 15 years now within the board accounts or savings and money allocation. And that is only due to the ongoing efforts of the different board members and the departments not spending their budget down and actually returning some. So I've been thinking about that, going through my head and knowing that the new truck that they have, I don't know for sure, Matthew, is it 12 years old?
17.
The newest truck that we have to roll out is 17 years old, which is 3 years short of fire department or NFPA defined acceptable standard. So I don't know that all the residents, and that's probably more detail than most of the residents are going to get into, but just in a nutshell, is that funding mechanism has existed so that the residents don't have to necessarily absorb additional tax burden for that, because we can borrow against or from ourselves and pay that back, I guess, is and looking at it in a level of priority. And I know that the concrete out there is important. That's $77,000. It's important. If I had to choose, I would choose a truck. Is where I'm at. I know the maintenance guys bear the most of the burden in that situation, but as taxpayers, we kind of do as we use that facility as well. And I just thought it was going in the direction, or I felt as a resident that it was going in a direction of like, we're offsetting, we don't have enough money, we can't do it. I'm not advocating for more spending on additional stuff, but that has been set up on that cycle. So just going forward, I just wanted to share my thoughts as a resident.
Last week, Drew and I, we spent a little time together and we talked about that. He told me it was a gentleman that works at the university, a professor, that he could put all of our equipment and our budget, and he could come up with a plan that we could probably replace every piece of equipment how many years out, and with the money that we have to spend.
And I would defer to Chad on that, but we have essentially $80,000, $50,000 that we have available now, and then we have $30,000 coming back or available as a borrowable sum, I guess maybe that we already have budgeted that we're paying for loans right now. Is that accurate, Chad? $50,000 we've used for streets and roads. That's the 500. thousand.
That's actually, that loan's about $130,000
Okay,
for the streets and roads projects. It's about $30,000 for the dump truck.
okay.
That's got 2 years left on it.
So we do have I guess what I wanted to emphasize, and thanks for that,
Yeah.
Chairman Shaler, is that is what that is set up for that spending, and then the department's budget and whatever is left over at the end of the year goes back into the general fund and becomes available for these larger purchases. But I just wanted to review that a little bit, but that you're exactly correct. I know that that's set up to basically replace the equipment on a rotation
Yeah.
without having to take a whole bunch of money out of savings. So we're just replacing that already budgeted loan.
Right. Thanks, Bob. Anybody else? Go ahead.
On that subject, Matthew Van Loon, 506 Olivet Street. Many years ago, the fire department set up a long-range plan for vehicle replacements. Therefore, we had set up that we would put so much money in the capital outlay over years so that when it came time to purchase a vehicle, we would have a sizable down payment on it. It wouldn't be, you have to get the loan for the whole amount. So we have been budgeting that money aside, and so the 500,000 whatever for the truck is not what we actually needed. The money that we had set aside is still there.
Thank you, Matthew. Anything else? No? Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, we were told, I think at the budget meeting, the truck was 18 years old last week or whenever the last budget meeting was. That's the number that was stated that I heard.
That is the newest one. Almost 18, 17?
It'll be 18, it'll be 18 pretty quick.
I thought I understood it was the one that they wanted to replace was 18.
No,
I think Rescue 2 is 34 years old, isn't
Huh?
it? Rescue 2 is 34 years old, isn't it?
35 years old,
Right, 82, yeah.
And engine 2 is an 82, so it's 35 years old with rust galore.
Anybody else? Okay. Go ahead, Lee.
Well, since apparently now we're beating up on the fire department again, personally, I'm not opposed to a different truck. I mean, I understand that this thing is getting close to being a piece of junk. And Bobby made a good point at the last meeting about this, that in 2024, the state's going to look back and say, hey, are you guys upkeeping your equipment? What I am opposed to is spending the money on a brand new one when you don't need to. And the argument that, well, it's going to be retrofitted to another municipality, it's still going to have to be retrofitted to this one if you are getting a brand new one. Why get a brand new one and spend all that money that you don't have to when you can spend that elsewhere on roads and stuff and still get a decent vehicle? And then not to have a guarantee that you're not going to buy a vehicle too big for what you currently have and then have to have us spend millions of dollars to build a new building for you guys to put this new fire truck in. The new building piece is a big concern of people that I've spoken with as well. That we don't have a guarantee that this isn't going to be a giant fire truck that we're going to have to build a new building for.
Actually, that could be guaranteed with the specs. I think that truck can be spec'd to be on.
Yeah, but if you put it up for a referendum, that's not. Are you going to specify the size of it on the referendum, even though it is going to be advisory?
I think the advisory is more for the spending than the actual,
Agreed.
once the spending's, how this normally has worked, I think anyways in the past is, once a truck's approved, then there's a committee that's put together to spec that truck. And part of that would be, we only need it this long because our station's only this long. So that definitely would be taken into consideration. Nobody's looking to definitely buy a new station. That I hear the concern because buying one that wouldn't fit wouldn't make any sense at all. So.
But again, we have a lot of other things we need to spend money on. We don't necessarily need to spend $500 or more $1,000 on a vehicle. You could spend less, get a decent vehicle, and then work with the board like you have been, work with the board and continue to earmark it and put it as capital. Just keep going at it and then put it on that schedule. Like, I don't know, you said 20 What's the general usage of an engine?
It's 20 years and then it has to be completely gone over and reconditioned or whatever to make it all up to standards of current stuff. Buying used, number one, is if you buy one that's already 10 years old, you only got 10 years left and you gotta stick a bunch of money into it. And you buy something from out there, you might really have the issue of fitting it in the station. Because of lengths. No, I'm serious. That the General was built to fit in the station. Okay, because that was a custom built. You go out and you start measuring trucks that are out there, there are a lot of them, the wheelbases and the total length are too long to fit in.
So one of the core fundamentals always in speccing out trucks, from my brief time, it's been off for 10 years, but has always been pump and carry capacity, because being the first truck out, it's fairly unique in the fact we don't have water, right, everywhere. So the first truck that rolls is the pumper with enough to pump for a few minutes and suppress or at least get the initial attack. Next truck out is the tanker to provide for the truck, and from there then goes right down, second pumper, second tanker, depending on whatever, along with mutual aid. Unless those have changed, I don't want to speak. I can't speak for the fire department, but that one of the reasons in early days was for that specifications for that first truck, or the fire department's first truck out, was to have enough to fire up the pumps and not leave the guys stranded at the end of the hose. It's basically what it comes down to. So the pump typically has, if you fire up all the pumps, what do you got, 1,600?
1750 on the first one out.
If you run every pump on it, how long would it take you to drain the tank?
Not even a minute.
So, and that tank versus what a standard truck comes with what's the difference?
Depends on what you get. Some of them, the engines, if they're like for like City of La Crosse, we'll say as an example, because they have hydrant systems, they go with like a 500-gallon tank, maybe a 750. So you go with the biggest amount we can get there first. That's why we have the bigger water haulers and stuff like that.
So, thank you, Lee. But I really wasn't. I know there's a lot of technical detail that goes into it, and when people come to the meeting, usually they've got something specific to themselves is why they're here. So, I mean, I understand that as a resident, and if people that have certain needs are feeling like they're not getting their stuff budgeted for in the so of course they look at the truck and for whatever my specific needs is at that time, I just felt like we missed some of the detail in that the truck being replaced is 30 plus. Our newest truck is 17, and I just thought about that in case I needed it, because I've seen where it's happened in my neighborhood, and within minutes you are either making a difference in saving it or you're losing it, and it's not good to watch, I guess, or obviously, I mean, I'm oversimplifying that, but at any rate,
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, cut you off. There was a fire last week on LaFond Avenue, and the fire department was there in less than 7 minutes, and the porch was totally engulfed, and they knocked it down right away. And Mr. Payne, one of the guys on the fire department, got hurt and did get taken out to emergency.
Really?
So, guess he's doing okay, right?
I guess so. I haven't talked to him lately.
Right. So, I guess thanks for taking care of that. Anybody else want anything?
Just have one more thing.
Go ahead.
Chad, you changed your mind on our thing for the last few months?
No, I have not.
Anything else, Lee? No? Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, just, last, at the budget meeting, as I understood it, unless something changed, this referendum is gonna be on the April election, is that, as I understood it now, or has that changed?
Well, that's the way that we're going anyway right now with it.
So we'll be on there.
Yeah, we haven't set nothing in stone yet, but that's what it sounds like we're gonna do right now. I guess we have to have it together by January, or?
I don't know the exact date, but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll probably have to have part of our meeting in January for approval of the resolution, but yeah. Yeah, it can't be set in stone right now. The board hasn't approved the resolutions, but
The language and everything, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Anything else, Bruce?
Good for now.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion to call public hearing?
So move.
I'll second that. I got a motion by Bob, second by Terry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to consent agenda. Items A through C. If there's no action taken on the consent agenda, can I get a motion, please?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that. I have a motion by Bob, second by Terry. Any discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to business. 5A.
Okay, the County Hazardous Waste Material Program, that's gonna run from 2018 to 2028. Currently, we pay $1.25. I think that's gonna go to $1.30. The following year, 19, $1.35, 20, $1.40, up to 2022, where it'll go to $1.50 per person per household. And from there, it'll be a 2% increase after 2023. For disposing of our hazardous materials. One thing the town of Campbell is, we're a net gainer from that. We turn in more hazardous waste than we actually pay for. So it has been a very good benefit to us, and it costs you have $2.60 a person in your household with the town side and the county side to that. So if you have 10 people living in your home, it costs you $26 a year, and you can dispose of all your hazardous waste out at the county landfill site. So need a motion to have that approved.
As a user of it, I move to approve.
Second.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Discussion?
Yeah, what happens if we don't exist in 2025? Just goes out later and doesn't, we don't have any, there's no,
Right. The agreement
I'd like to assume it just dies.
would
but-
cease to, but we're going to
You pay it
exist.
through the city of Cross at that point, I guess.
We're going to exist in 2025 because even if incorporation doesn't go well, we're still going to be a township.
Yeah, true.
I mean, we're not going away. So,
Slowly start picking it off.
yeah. But it's a good program. It works well. It's very inexpensive. The county has been subsidizing it for a while. These increases are to help eliminate some of that extra cost to the county and pass it back on to the users in each community. So.
Your motion still standing?
You have a motion and a second.
Second it.
Okay. I have a motion by Bob, second by Ralph. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to 5B, disposal of town property. Chelsea?
I'm not sure what the computers that we chat, I think. Is what this is.
figure if we're gonna do it, I've got a couple of old computers that might as well put on the list.
Maintenance had asked me if we could get rid of some old items that were used to drag the field. I'll let you guys look at your computers. They're a public side. I'm not sure if we just want to take it to alter and get rid of it, or if we want to try and sell it, or what we can do. So, it's,
The disc harrow, or the disc cultivator, you might actually be able to get something for it. But the drag, that's probably
yeah.
scrapped.
I just
It's
can't
probably-
toss it though. I need you guys to.
Right. No, you're probably right. That is.
Sell it to the city of La Crosse.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if I can have the, if we can sell anything, if I can do it in means of Craigslist, I don't know if that's appropriate,
There's a state auction site
or something.
that we can use as a township, that you can go on and list items for sale.
Steve's
All
done
about
it.
making a few bucks, so.
So I would move to allow Kelsey to dispose of this property. And same thing with the computer. I mean, I don't know how old they are.
I do have a question on the computers. Do we scrub those before we sell them?
Last time I took them to CR Solution or whatever, and they did their thing. I'm assuming that they wipe them clean. But
HP.
They scrub it.
Yeah.
the issue with the old laptops is they got the old XP in there, and they're not supported anymore. So, but we're just kind of sitting there right now as paperweight. So, like I said, I just thought I'd throw them on there since we're.
So in that, I'm going to strike my motion temporarily. In that, that would also include just recycle, because I don't know where you're going to explore that. But so I move to allow Kelsey authorization to dispose of the listed equipment.
Well, you want me to sell this stuff? Or get rid of it, just toss this stuff?
Do
And then
it
sell that
however-
stuff?
If you
Well, this is Chad's stuff.
Let me, all right, strike my motion. Maybe I don't have all the info. Do you have plans for this? Or you're saying we need to we're not using it anymore, right?
No, those computers are worthless to anybody.
So then my question would be, the disc, we might be able to get something for. Everything else I'm pretty much thinking is nothing. I mean, I don't know if there's a program that you could do the computers to, but at the rate those are going. So here's my question, Kelsey. Are you interested in doing all these along with the disc, or just the?
I just would like to know, sorry, my picture's out there, if I can just sell these or toss them, or what you want me to do. That's all I'm wanting to know. That just got tossed in there. But I mean, if I need to do it, I can do it.
The disc you can put on Wisconsin surplus. Steve done already.
I have offers for both items.
You've had offers
For both items.
Okay.
here within the town, or?
Yes.
Just a matter of the time consumption. I mean, the auction is great, but they do take a percentage,
Okay.
as far as I know.
I
So,
guess, can I
is it
not
worth
take a
even?
percentage and toss it on Craigslist?
My clarification. So my motion is purely whatever means define feasible. I'm not to stipulate to anything. So go ahead and dispose of the equipment accordingly, and if we can get money for it, spectacular.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Bob and a second by Ralph. Any further discussion? Call motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to 5C, review of possible updates to policy and procedure manual. It's got my name on it, but, I guess.
This one, I'm sorry. We were meaning to bring this back in December, but with all the meetings we had, it got away from me. So accidentally put it on there. You guys can still talk about it or do whatever.
So at this point, I mean, having it and having the items that we're talking about is beneficial for the next. Basically, just hold it over again to look at it. Unless there's something specific you guys want to talk about on it. And I looked at from what I think it was Kelsey was talking last time initially was that vacation conversation.
Can you keep the personal lead time or something?
Well, and I kind of missed it. Whereas the PTO, it's basically all just what you call it, but maybe that first year, I think the standards typically, industry standards typically, I think it was 2 weeks approximately or something.
Yeah.
So, which depending on whatever that, if you look at PTO as that, or if PTO is separate from that, is
Which again, as a benefit for the town employees right now, general employees are receiving 2 weeks to start. I mean,
yeah,
that's,
I missed that, and
That's prorated though, right? So if they start in July, they don't get.
well, of course, you're not going to give them the full 2 weeks if they start in July. But
I would actually go for that. I
Go
don't
get a
care
job
what.
at Eckelbridge, they'll give you 3 weeks right off the bat.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. That is clarification. Where when you start, you can start using it, but if you then leave and you've used your 2 weeks of vacation, you essentially, like most industry, you have to pay it back.
it makes it more difficult. And I'll only say that it makes it more difficult because then what do I do January 1st? So now they've gotten 2 weeks for 6 months period, and now they get another 2 weeks in 6 months. Or do I have to wait until July to give them another 2 weeks?
I see what you're saying. If they
Do we
start-
go on anniversary date or?
I got you. So if you start after some date in July, you only get a week till the end of the year.
It's just been easier for us as a smaller company that in January 1st, everybody gets loaded up.
Got it.
Boom, you're done.
Okay.
I'm not worried about start dates, anniversary dates. You know, this person in October gets 2 weeks, and then this person, because they started in June, gets 2 weeks. And
So
it's
this,
just
after
boom.
one continuous year, they receive 1 week of vacation is not how it is right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because if they start let's just say July 1st, they'll get half their 2 weeks. So they'll get a week for that. January 1st, I will load them up with 2 weeks because that's the new loaded period. When they hit their 2-year anniversary mark, I'll give them another 2 weeks. Because those are easy to take care of because there's only a few of them. It's either 2 years or 7 years, 12 years, 20 years. I mean, those are easy to do.
Okay.
But
So
the way
the 2 weeks, that's 2 additional to the first 2 weeks at 2 to 7.
I mean, ideally, if somebody were to start January 1st, which we haven't done in so long, but typically you start January 1st, you would be preloaded with your first 2 weeks right away.
Got it. Okay.
It just, the way that it's been going, we've been hiring employees mid-year. And when this was written, what it was done was you would prorate it till the end of the year, and then January 1st, you get just preloaded with another 2 weeks, and you'd be done. And then once you hit your 2-year anniversary mark, you'd get another week. If that's
So
not
at
confusing.
At 7 years, you have how many weeks of vacation for? At 2 years, how many weeks of vacation is for?
At 2 years, right now, the general employees have 3 weeks. At 7 years, 3 weeks. From 7 to 12, they'll have 4 weeks.
That includes a week of PTO.
Right, including that week of PTO.
That includes the week of PTO, yes. Now, employees like Steve and Steve, they run on this 2 week, 3 week thing. They only get 2 personal days, but they've been here for 20 years. So, you know, Steve's getting 5 weeks of vacation and 2 days of personal time. Plus, he's receiving 12 days of sick time every year. If we went back to the old ways of doing it, then yeah, it would be 1 week of vacation, 2 personal days, and 12 sick days. Now, again, however you want to look at that and call it. If you want to call it all personal time, if you want to call it vacation and personal time and sick time with 3 banks, it doesn't really matter. It just,
Okay.
but it does, when you break it down, it does give you some options of how things are paid out. You know, when people, you know, you can have a little discretion, like your vacation has to be used in increments of 4 hours or daily. Personal time can be used in increments of however you want, half hour, 15 minutes. Sick time can be used in increments. If you lump it all together, now you have to define how is that used, and then at the end of the year, what's transferable, what's paid out at the end of the year. Is it all use or lose? Do you get to pay some?
Okay.
You know, I'm not in a smaller community like this. I'm not a huge fan of any bank time. To be honest with you, I mean, if we're giving them 2-3 weeks to begin with at the beginning of the year, do they really need to bank or carry over 2 additional weeks? I feel we're too small of a company that we can't afford, you know, Lenny to be out 5 weeks because he was able to roll over a couple.
Is there any bank policy right now in here?
Only at board discretion, vacation. Their comp time, they can roll over, I think, up to 16 hours or something. But the maintenance guys usually don't take comp.
Industry standard, they cut back on it. They eliminated the rollover if you don't use it. Unless you're not allowed to schedule it, then you have to be paid for it. But even still, at that point, they were like, let you roll a week into the next year, and that was it. They capped it. And if you had more than that, you just lost it.
The town has been very generous of allowing them to sell it at the end of the year at full rate. But
Any other issues? Or shall we move on?
Oh, we're good.
The motion carried over now? or?
Somebody already made that motion, didn't they, to carry it over? I mean, it was scheduled for December's
Yep,
meeting,
yep.
and
Okay.
although we're discussing it now. But
Yeah, no, I just was getting some background on some of it
is-
going into.
Yep. And
So yeah, I did have a.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I'll restate it, so if I said something really straight, and move to hold over to December original date.
I'll second that. We got a motion by Bob, second by Terry. Any further discussion? Call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to public comment. Can I get a motion to go in public comment, please?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mitch, second by Ralph. Any further discussion? We call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We are in public comment. Anybody?
I got one thing. This time I'd like to thank Supervisor Bromer for the incident with one of the members of the fire department bringing a gun to the town hall and going and taking care of that issue for safety reasons. So, thanks, Mitch, appreciate it.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Matthew Van Loon, 506 Olivet. I'd like to thank all the veterans that we have here in the building. Thanks for your service to your country.
I'd like to add to that. Thank you all veterans, Chad, Bob. Anybody else?
I am.
And thank you, sir. Okay, anybody else? Anything? Go
I'd
ahead.
like to go. Ralph Thorne, 600 Plainview. I just want to add kind of some of what Bob was saying. I think as a board, we have a responsibility to the community for the safety of the community and the people that put their lives on the line to provide that safety. And by not trying to figure out a way to move forward with this truck is kind of irresponsible. It's just my thoughts. I know we're talking about putting on a referendum for April. If there's any way, I mean, we've got people have come up with multiple ideas of how we can come up with the money. We've had discussions on how we can do it without raising taxes, so I think that discussion should keep moving. That's all I got to say about it.
Thanks, Ralph. Anybody else? Can I get a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
I'll second that. A motion by Bob, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. That concludes our business. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second that. Motion by Bob, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you for coming.
It's my favorite meeting in the last 3 weeks.
That's not for you, Chad.
beautiful.
30 minutes.
There's a ton of checks, so if one of you would please.
Then Chad's got to be the spoiler.